Hello and welcome to episode 101 of PubShorts titled Panic. My name is Dr. Krishna or Dr. K. Oh my God, Tony, you made me say Dr. Krishna for the first time in my entire life. and I am the
It's all my fault.
I'm the
It's all my fault that you've got a name.
I'm the innovation officer at Trinka and Inago. And Tony, please introduce yourself and the show.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President for Partnerships here at Inago. Welcome to PubShorts. Welcome to episode 101 of PubShorts. I hope you all watched episode 100, where we talked about the rise of paper mills, or the ever-increasing influence of paper mills and fraudulent activity. Today's episode, like every episode, is named after a pop song. And sometimes KK and I don't always agree on the title of a particular episode. And what we like to do is name an episode after a particular UK pop song from the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Normally, we're both music obsessed, and we've chosen today the episode a title of the song "Panic" by the Smiths, who must be one of my favorite groups ever. I love the Smiths. Anyway, but I could have an entire episode just talking about the Smiths. But why are we calling this episode Panic? Well, what we're doing is we're highlighting the alarm that covers mass retractions. We're looking at large people panicking about the use of large paper mill networks, panicking about halting reviewer suggestions, panicking about how to cope with COPE's new retraction guidance, and finding that taxpayer funds are being used to fund potentially fictitious research networks. So every reason to panic.
Yeah.
As long as the panic is a good energy, of course.
I mean, panic is obviously an adaptation in the sense that when you do that, you have heightened reflexes and everything in terms of warding off threats and everything. So that is from a human biological point of view. But here we are uncovering a lot of research integrity concerns in the academic publishing things. And let's start with the first story.
And I think it's not unfair to say that there is a certain amount of not panic, but certainly there's such concern about the growth of these fraudulent acts.
Right. So the first story that we're covering is from Retraction Watch. It's titled Sage Journal Retracts Nearly 50 Papers for Signs of Paper Mill Activity. So this is from the European Journal of Inflammation, and this is due to suspected paper mill activity. Investigation began after noticing signs of paper mill activity in one article, and these retractions were due to concerns about author contributions and research integrity, Tony. And the retraction notice was published on the 5th of August. And the papers involve patient samples from various diseases. So it's a sort of a sample data set which was spread across and was not relevant. And the retractions represented 20% of the journal's publications from 2018 to 2020, and the papers were cited only 73 times. So for 50 papers, 73 citations is very low, I would argue. And Sage made up to 96,000 from these retracted articles in the sense, I think, of APCs and everything. I would imagine. So the main point is obviously research data manipulation and research integrity concerns which were found at a later date. Your thoughts on it, Tony? I mean, you probably have heard publishers wanting to look at their catalog in the context of research integrity concerns.
Oh, we talked about this before in the last episode about there is a growing awareness of the needs for publishers to go back retrospectively and look more deeply at their archives to identify papers which may have been used today's tool identified as being potentially fraudulent, or at least worthy of consideration for retraction. I think it's always difficult when a publisher's been highlighted, and having 50 papers retracted from one journal is clearly a difficult thing to admit. But I do applaud Sage for doing this, because I think what it shows is how serious they're taking this whole issue of research integrity. And I think more publishers are doing this, but not necessarily being quite as open as Sage are in terms of what they're doing, what they're identifying. So, no, well done, Sage, for identifying, and I hope they continue.
Yeah. And in a related story, again, another one from Retraction Watch. It's titled Embattle Journal Curious Hall's Peer Review Suggestions. So this one, hold on, let me just get did I pick the wrong article? Hold on, just a second. Yeah, so it is about the journal Curious stopping author suggestions for peer reviewers. The change is due to conflicts of interest, as authors might suggest friendly reviewers, which is a problem. I mean, this was also discussed during the peer review congress. Reviewers suggested by the authors tend to give more favorable reviews. That one would imagine that that being the case. And the past incidents include authors being biased. I mean, using biased reviewers, like a medical resident using his wife as a reviewer, which is very strange. So Curious will now have authors suggest advisors instead of reviewers. And advisors will give comments but not official peer reviews. And critics argue this move could increase bias rather than reduce it. Now, concerns exist regarding transparency and the effectiveness of this advisor system. So, in general, the point of concern is whether authors should be recommending reviewers at all. And so I was surprised, Tony, to find conversations at the peer review congress, expressing that this practice should not be allowed in the context of obviously the bias that is introduced in the process. So, I'm interested to know
Well,
your thoughts on this. Yes.
okay. I mean, I'm perhaps not the best person to ask this, but I know that publishers will ask authors, not necessarily, can you suggest a reviewer for this paper? That would be, I personally think that would be unethical, but although I'm sure it happens. But publishers are always asking authors, can you recommend reviewers within your organization, not just for this paper, but for in general?
Right.
So they can broaden their review pool. I think there's nothing unethical about that in terms of wanting to broaden a network. In fact, that's how many journals grow, is that through recommendations and suggestions from authors and from reviewers. But they should not be asked, who would you recommend to review this paper? Because isn't that automatic, almost guaranteed bias potentially.
It's true, but at the same time, we have there's a challenge in terms of finding reviewers. I think these need to be considered and probably evaluated for bias and research integrity concerns. The networks.
No, you're right. There is a crisis of finding reviewers, but frankly, I would personally prefer a paper not be reviewed at all than be reviewed in a biased way.
But would you say that as a publisher or as a journal editor?
I would say that as a journal publisher.
Okay.
And I think as a journal editor obviously has a difficult job to do in terms of making sure that the submissions every submission is being treated equitably, fairly, that reviews, that we're not overburdening reviewers. But to actually introduce such a conscious bias into the process, I think is negative. I think should be discouraged.
Right. All right. So the next story is something that I wanted to talk about immediately after the previous and the first story that we talked about. So this one is a Nature News article. Again, something that came up and was discussed in detail as part of a presentation during the peer review congress. It's titled "Europe's Largest Paper Mill: 1,500 Research Articles Linked to a Ukrainian Network." So that's quite alarming. So this article discusses or explores a massive paper mill linked to a Ukrainian network, and over 1,500 suspect research articles were identified. And the companies involved have flooded 380 journals since 2017. This paper mill is named Tanu.pro, TANU.pro, and unfortunately I cannot show you the rest of the article because of access issues. And it is linked to unusual email domains. Anna Abalkina and Svetlana Kleiner presented these findings at the peer review congress, and they talked about it. It was such a sort of talked about research presentation, and the network includes, Tony, about 4,500 researchers from about 46 countries. And many papers show signs of fabricated data and plagiarism. And the investigation raises concerns about scientific integrity. So this is probably the first Ukrainian paper mill network that was identified, and obviously this raises the concerns that if this has happened in Ukraine, it could happen from anywhere in the world. And so what I'm the consensus sort of a statement here is that we need more ways in which to identify potential research integrity fraud, and to help the editors, identify these before they are even sent to peer review. So, your thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose my only thought is around the fact that the network includes the statement about the network including so many researchers from so many countries. I think it says 4,500 researchers from 46 countries. I wonder how many of those 4,500 researchers, though, were unaware of the fact that they were collaborating in this way. That it could be quite a genuine researcher, a busy researcher who doesn't necessarily have the time to research the background and profile of the person they're asking to collaborate with, who might just quite legitimately and honestly accept a co-authoring invitation.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it just strikes me that I would be staggered. Not maybe if all 4,500 of those were legitimate bad actors, or some of them just being being deceived into acting in this way.
Right, and on cue, almost on cue, Cope has released retraction guidelines to address paper mills, third parties, and more. This is a story that again was published on Retraction Watch, and I've read out the title already. So these so the guidelines for of a journal should to retract authorship if authorship cannot be verified or accountability is in question. Misrepresentations, including fraud or identity theft, are could be reasons for retraction, and the new guidelines stress timely retractions without waiting for institutional investigations. COPE also suggests allowing review of papers caught up in mass fraud retractions and retraction notices. It recommends, COPE recommends, COPE is the Committee of Publication Ethics. It recommends that these notices should be clear without any systemic manipulation of the publication process itself. So some guidelines may not sit well with maybe journal editors and publishers in terms of retracting papers as soon as some author integrity issues are pointed out. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you think publishers will take such extreme measures without confirming with the institutions that the authors or the researchers are affiliated to?
I think they will. I don't think there'll be any choice. COPE is made up of experts in research ethics, in publishing ethics. And these people mostly come from publishing organisations, and they'll be recommending back these practices for their own organisations. I think whether an individual editor likes it or not, the reality is that what COPE is highlighting here are a clear set of guidelines in terms of how they should be managing their journals, what the issues are around fraud and identity theft. How retractions should be dealt with, that they should be dealt with swiftly, and the sooner a paper is retracted, then the less impact it's going to have on the scholarly literature. So they may not like it. I'm sure that they might find it a difficult thing to put into practice, but it's clear that there is manipulation in the publication process, and that publishers, editors need to do everything they can to stamp it out. Yeah, that's basically what I want to say. I think it's inevitable. It has to happen. It has to happen.
Well, the point that is mentioned, that I've highlighted this, is that institutional investigations take a long time, and that should not. I mean, during that period when the investigation is ongoing, the research paper, which is questionable, is still being cited.
Well, maybe there needs to be some kind of interim flag that I don't know if some publishers are already doing this. If a paper is being flagged as under investigation, then maybe there should be some kind of
signal,
watermark or signal or stamp that says, just
that's a good idea.
Indication. I don't know. Maybe this is something that publishers should be introducing. But investigations do take a long time because they have to be done thoroughly and have to be done fairly. So maybe that step would help to influence whether an author immediately chooses to use that paper, or whether they wait until that paper's passed through the investigation process.
Right, and the last main story that we have is from Digital Science. It's a press release. Digital Science investigation shows millions of taxpayers' money has been awarded to researchers associated with the fictitious network. So this is from Leslie McIntosh, who's part of Digital Science, and her investigation exposed the fictitious Pharmacon neuroscience network, another thing that was talked about at the peer review congress. This network was tied to over 120 questionable research publications. The network exploited weaknesses in research systems for funding, and despite being exposed, many researchers continue to receive significant funding. And Dr. McIntosh recommends better verification and oversight in research publications, and Digital Sciences uses tools like Dimensions and Altmetric to track such issues. And this is what I think, there need to be more tools and more, I guess, systems being integrated with tools to flag for these, so that at least we can catch research integrity concerns as early as possible, so that the trust in the science that is being published can be restored. Your thoughts? Any further thoughts on this?
Nothing really to add on top of Dr. McIntosh's comments. I think again, it's unfortunate, but it's a reality that not everyone in our ecosystem is working honestly and openly. There are fraudulent, there are bad actors who want to manipulate and exploit the system. And tools like altmetrics and dimensions can help highlight who those individuals are. And again, I think I mentioned this in an earlier episode. If a researcher is identified as being fraudulent or acting in this way, then they should be removed from the academic network.
Right. Well,
I'm not allowed to participate, I should say.
Right. All right. So, Tony, are you ready for quick hits? All our sort of industry partnerships or integrations. We have 5 of them. Starting off with the first one from Signals. Signals announces innovative research integrity badge and key partnerships to empower researchers. So Signals has announced this badge which helps researchers identify trustworthy publications. We just talked about it. It aims to address trust concerns in academic literature. And for this, Signals has partnered with NANCI, Nancy, Cassini, and Litmaps. I'm not sure what NANCI stands for. Do you know what this stands for?
I don't. Yeah. Maybe we should look it up.
Yeah, so I didn't do my research on this, but anyway, so there are 3 things: Cassini, Litmaps, and Nancy. These partnerships, Tony, aim to improve literature discovery and evaluation, and the badge integrates into existing research tools, and that's very important because the sort of the functionality has to appear where the researchers are doing their work. Otherwise, it won't help at all. So this is the first news. Any quick thoughts on this before I move on to the next? It's also from Signals.
No, not really. I think it speaks for itself. The point is, if you've got the badge, does that guarantee that it's not going to accept a paper that's been produced by a paper mill? Does it guarantee that the paper won't be generated in some illegitimate way? So, I mean, I think it's good that those badges exist, those kind of kite marks exist, but it's an ongoing, constant vigilance process to ensure that standards are being maintained.
But it's very interesting. We just talked about it. So these are the classification or the signals that signals the application sends. So it's there are 4 of these. Looks good. That means that the paper's metadata does not raise concerns. Caution, which means that the paper's metadata raises some concerns. And alert, paper's metadata raises significant concerns. And finally, retracted. So maybe, Tony, what you are talking about in terms of under investigations would fall under the caution and alert thing, but this is only pertaining to metadata. So anyway, so that's a very interesting thing that as soon as we finish talking about a potential solution, we talked about the solution itself. And the next story is the integration between Global Campus and Signal. They're partnering to enhance research integrity in peer review. Wait, hold on. Let me just confirm that this is a story. Yeah. So the Signals badge will be integrated into Global Campus's platform to evaluate researchers' credibility. This integration aids publishers in selecting trustworthy reviewers. Signals provides article-level evaluations that look good, caution, and alert. We just went through it, and this would also match with the reviewers itself. So Global Campus is a sort of a academic, sort of a peer network where you can find the best reviewers matched for your peer review. The article that needs peer review. Any thoughts on this, Tony?
I think this is a manifestation of what we talked about 2 stories ago.
Yeah.
In terms of providing research integrity checks to identify and prevent problematic manuscripts and problematic authors.
Right.
I think what we're going to see over the next 12, 24 months, increasingly tools like Signals and other tools are being integrated into these journal submission systems, and they'll be part and parcel of the suite of tools that a publisher can use as part of their manuscript processing systems.
Right. Moving on to the next story, it is a press release from Aries. Aries Systems and Signals partner to strengthen efficiency and accuracy of research integrity checks. So the title is obvious. So the aim is to help journals identify and prevent problematic manuscripts, and the integration will streamline editorial workflows and reduce delays. Yeah. Signals' manuscript checks is integrated with Editorial Manager, Aries' submission system. I guess we've talked about it before. The tool evaluates manuscripts for authorship, references, and content analysis. Again, as something the solutions are all here to the problems that we discussed. Any thoughts on this, Tony?
What I said from the previous story, the need for badges, the need to identify potentially problematic manuscripts and potentially problematic authors and reviewers. And if anything, any tools exist to help identify who they are, what they are, then they should be used, they should be encouraged, and they should be widespread.
Right. And finally, we close with two stories from Image Twin. Image Twin and Clear Skies announced partnership to strengthen research integrity. So Image Twin is one of the leaders in terms of image manipulation detection, and Clear Skies is obviously research integrity leader. And they're teaming to boost research integrity. Image Twin's tech will integrate with Clear Skies' oversight platform, and this collaboration aims to enhance research standards and prevent misconduct. Clear Skies uses an AI solution to identify problematic articles early, and Oversight provides metrics for research standards across publishers and papers. So that's an interesting integration. And I'll also read my notes for Image Twins integration with Integra's editorial pilot. So this integration helps publishers check image integrity at scale, and Editorial Pilot offers over 40 automated checks for these manuscripts. Image manipulation detection integration is also happening to assist editors across platforms and across brands, etc. Another concern, and I guess we have had enough cases of research being tainted because of manipulated images. Any further thoughts on this, Tony?
Oh, you listen. The whole area of content production, typesetting, production, XML, the creation of that literature after peer review is such a competitive area. Mm-hmm. So I think what this particular collaboration with Integra does is puts Integra slightly ahead of the game, maybe. Right. In terms of offering checks that every publisher needs, every academic publisher needs, and just it includes as part of their overall service. I think they've done a very clever thing, but I'm sure others will follow quickly. Right, they'd be stupid not to.
And with that, we hope that at least the panic that is created because of so many different types of research integrity flags will be partially mitigated, and at least solutions are being proposed. So Tony, I hope at least this will be the way forward. We will probably be talking about research integrity for the next 100 episodes. How many other episodes of PubShorts we publish?
Well, okay, let's be serious for a second. I mean, the whole point about the validity of academic research, it all stems down to its integrity. If you can't trust the content, how can you trust that content influencing your own research? Research integrity is everything. The research has got to be honest. It's got to be open. It's got to be well thought through. It has to be done in a legitimate and honest way. And anything that's negative or potentially negative, or that's done in a fraudulent way, undermines the integrity of our ecosystem. I think it potentially puts under threat. So it's such a big thing. If there were 1,000 episodes of PubShorts, I'm sure episode 1,000 will be talking about it as well.
Talking about a number of episodes of PubShorts, we've already have had 100 episodes. The last episode was the 100th one. And Tony, if suppose somebody wants to catch up with all the 100 episodes, how can they do it?
Well, make sure you keep a weekend free. You can catch all previous 100 episodes and watch this particular episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Inago PubShorts and you'll see a list of all the previous episodes. I encourage you to press like if you've enjoyed this episode. Press like and share it with your colleagues. Please leave comments and suggestions for future episodes. We really enjoy the suggestions that have come through so far. And we'd like more. Please continue to send through your ideas. If you want to contact me directly, if you don't want to leave a public message, you can contact me at tony@inago.com, and I'll be happy to consider your suggestions.
And I will also do the same. You can write to me at LinkedIn or on my email address, which you can find if you are interested. And please send us comments, suggestions on what you would like us to cover, Tony and I, and we'll do our best. And until the next episode, Tony, this is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony. We will see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
See you in the next one.